like I said, I'll try to keep it short here. Gonna make a few introductions here with these guys and take a little drive out in the field and come back and eat. So first off, I guess thank you guys for showing up. You guys are all customers of mine, and I do appreciate it. That's the main focus of having the meal and stuff here today. I do appreciate it. Peyton Owens with Nature's Formula. Dan Ivancho, manager here at Bellow Farms. Again, just having you guys down to kind of showcase some of the work that's been done here and using Nature's on some of the crops here. So products that we might try to start using on some other places in the future. So anyway, with the whole chemical applicating and stuff like that, I've been on a lot of acres here this year. So seeing some of these problems and stuff, it's everywhere. So, prices aren't looking real promising on stuff. That's without saying. But managing weeds and stuff is still going to be an issue. On the herbicide end of things, the weeds were definitely hard to kill at certain times. Then we had water hemp for sure, like everybody. It's going to be more and more important to scout for that kind of stuff and catch it early. I'm telling you guys stuff you're going to hear at every co-op meeting pretty much. It's, nothing, not too much new here. It's going to have to really rely on pre-emergent herbicides, that kind of thing. Don't skimp on them. Whether the expense is there or not, it's just part of it. With that all being said, incorporating Nature's into some of the spray programs is probably going to be a route that I'm looking at taking. We've been trying it a lot down here. Had pretty good luck with it, especially adding it to the other chemicals. We've been getting a lot better burn, I would say, on some of the weeds. Changing up technology, that's always going to be a thing. Incorporating this into it, that's going to be part of it. Looking into next year, some stuff's getting expensive. Obviously, that's got to be kept in check. Some of this is probably going to go back to older style technology, quite honestly. So anyway, that's kind of on the herbicide end, what we're kind of looking at. Weeds ain't going to get any easier to kill. So staying on top of them, I guess, is the biggest point of the story. Fertility program, and that's kind of where Peyton's going to come in here a little bit too, and Dan can tell you a little bit. It's almost just as important as seed selection, anything like that, seed treatments. Basic fertility is kind of the base where everything, kind of starts from. Balance, I'm sure you're going to, hear that from Peyton here. Keeping soil balanced, pH, all the nutrients within the soil. It's got to stay balanced. If you don't have a start, it's all downhill from there. Everything from canopy, pH control, even how your chemicals react, herbicides, it all starts with fertility. So again, kind of the basic building block there, that's got to be first before any micronutrients or anything, you really have to have a base to start from. That's a lot on the fertilizer end anyway. Again, just take soil test if you think you're deficient in something or whatever. It's very important to start with that and get an idea where you're at before you throw money at it. Micronutrients, kind of where we're taking off here with some of this. That's kind of where Nature's is going to come in. They've got everything from some microbials, some lime substitutes that we've tried on a few things down here. Help me out with this one, orthophosphate fertilizer, that more instant use type of, stuff that's readily available, as opposed to some of your commercial stuff that takes longer to break down. Might be of interest, especially for myself anyway, on rented ground where you don't know if that's coming back your way next year or not. It's kind of a way to mitigate cost on some of that. So back to enhancing yield, keeping balance, and reducing input costs. It's kind of where Peyton's going to talk to you about with some of this.
Mark was talking about the soil test and everything. You do a soil test, it's totally up to you. I've talked to Peyton extensively about it. I'm on this place more of an open book. I'm more than willing to share any information, all information that we have to hopefully help somebody else. I feel like that's the way the farming community should be, as far as, if I can help Mark out, we talk to each other all the time. If I can, talk to him and say, hey, we did this over here and had good luck with it, why wouldn't I want to share that with him? But there's also not a lot of the competition with sharecropping and renting down here as there is up where you guys are, so I get it. That being said, you can pull your soil samples, send them to Peyton, send them to Mark, and they'll give Rex. And Peyton has always, everybody at Nature's has always said that if we see a problem, they're not just trying to push their product. That's what I'm getting with. And also the big thing that as well, I mean, obviously you know how easy Mark is to get a hold of, but we want to go up the line and talk to Peyton. If he doesn't answer, and to be clear on it, I have no interest in the company. I don't sell it. My angle on it is, to be completely honest with you, the more you guys buy it, the more he's going to keep selling it, and the easier it is for me to get it, because we're going to keep doing it. But if Peyton doesn't answer on the third ring, he's calling me back within an hour or two every single time. And I mean, that's from January 1 to December 31st, all throughout the year. It doesn't matter. Planting season, harvest season, Peyton's always, he was my go-to guy before Mark started selling, and he's always been there. And most of the rest of the team with Nature's as well is readily available to answer any questions. If they don't have the answer to the question, usually within a day, they'll call you back and get back to you. So these guys have always been great. And like I said, more than willing to step back, look at what you got, and make a prescription that's going to be best for you in the end, because that's what the goal is to do the best with what we got, because there's so many challenges these days. But that's all I wanted to mention. Was a long story. Long was, about the soil samples, that if you're willing to share them with Peyton, with Mark, they're willing to give their feedback and give a prescription, do what you will with it, but you're not going to be on your own and going through the program if you want to try any of it.
Or at least adding it in to some degree to the program you've already got. And that's, for myself, where I'm at. It's not 100% standalone, but in addition to conventional, fertilizer program that we're already doing. So that all being said, I'll let Peyton take over here in a minute as far as, some of the products that he's got, but they're pretty much a full line of, microbial fertilizer type of stuff, all the way down to, residue management, full line of livestock type of stuff too. So obviously this is the next wave of things that are coming if you're wanting to push yield. Again, it's not going to happen until you've got other nutrients in place, but you're going to start hearing more and more about this. You have, if you've went to any other co-op meetings, it's coming that way. Interesting thing with this product in particular, the plus B and plus M additives that probably, Dan, wouldn't you say, probably one of the bigger selling points of it, if you're going to use something like this anyway. With that, I think I'm going to turn it over here to Peyton and let him kind of explain, a little bit about it. And
I think you guys got it covered. I don't know why I came.
yeah, why you came.
Yeah, if you want to follow along in this, I'll just kind of briefly go through. I'm going to introduce the company obviously first, so you know a little bit about us. Because like he said, if you haven't heard about biologicals and microbes, you're going to very soon, because that's where everyone's flocking. There's just a lot of buzz out there about those type of products. And every company is starting to get their own. So Nature's Formula, we've been in business over 10 years. We're based down in Texas. We make all of our products down there in Texas and then ship them out from there. I've been with the company since 2020 is when I started, and Dan was actually my very first customer and been using it since 2020 here. So he's got a lot of experience with it here as well. And like he said, he's an open book. So when we get out to the fields, any questions you guys have, I'm sure he'll just share what he did, what he's seen, and and that's how I operate too, is I'll tell you what I've seen other places and what I haven't seen, It's just, but from Texas, I live in western Kansas, and then I travel all over. I'm the sales manager for the company. And our mission is, to help bring balance to your guys' operation of farmers and ranchers. And we travel all over doing that. Our main product is the BioSure Grow, this pop-up here. To sum up what it is, it's a liquid microbial fertilizer is the easiest. But there's so many different uses you can do for it. The main thing a lot of people do with it is to help reduce input cost. And how you do that, we always, we can look at your soil samples, like they said, see what your normal program is, and we recommend, up to half, you're able to reduce your input costs, like on nitrogen. So if you're doing 200 pounds, we've seen people go down to 100 pounds, utilize this to, because anything you put with SureGrow, it's going to enhance it, make it more available. That's the way microbes work. Anything you put with it, like a nitrogen or phosphorus, the microbes are going to break it down. They're essentially eating that phosphorus or nitrogen and secreting an enzyme, and the enzyme then is what is actually plant available. Not everyone goes, half or anything. I always recommend whatever you're comfortable with and doing side by sides. Just ease into it, get yourself comfortable with it, because you guys got to make a living. We all know markets aren't good right now. Margins are very tight. So we want you to be comfortable too using the product, not obviously we don't want you to bet the whole farm on it. Every area is different, every farm's different. It's not going to be, some people see certain things in year 1 or 2, and other places it takes 3 to 4 years there, because all soils are out of balance overall across America. And that's what we're trying to work on, is help balance those soils. That's what microbes' jobs is to help balance those soils, over time. The problem wasn't created in 1 day or 1 year, and it ain't going to be fixed in 1 day or 1 year either. And a lot of that plays into just obviously weather. No one can control that, so there's all that factor. There's a lot of factors going against farmers all the time. But SureGrow, I think Mark's been using it within herbicide as well, so it can be used to help enhance herbicide, and I know Dan has used that a lot here and stuff too. So, we can talk about all that in the fields as well, so you guys can see how clean the fields are or how not they are, you can see what is actually going on. So like I said, these are the main things that SureGrow will help you with. But then as he was talking, the plus B and M, what that is, and that's in your book there as well about it. But the plus B, what it is for insect control. It's a natural microbe that we're able to add into the SureGrow. SureGrow itself is $15 a gallon. And we've had that price since day one, so over 10 years now. SureGrow's been $15 a gallon plus shipping. And as long as we can ship it, up in bulk, the shipping's usually under $1 a gallon. But then the plus B is an extra $3 that we add into it. So $3 a gallon for insect control. Any predatory insect that takes a bite of the plant ingests that microbe that's living in the plant. It's systemic in the plant, the plus B microbe. That insect takes a bite, ingests that microbe, and it works to kill the insect from the inside out over a period of a few days. So they still got to take a bite, so you're going to have some damage on the edges or wherever, on your leaves and stuff, depending on where the insects, if they're throughout the whole field or coming in from the edge or whatever. But it's minimal damage, and it's for $3. You apply it. I think, Dan, are you doing it in furrow, and that's it? Or?
We did some in furrow and some foliar, yeah. And another thing that I think everybody's being inundated, however much you want to read or talk to, or I'm sure any of the, co-op meetings or anything, they're talking about it. There was one in particular, I think it was the gall midge in soybeans, that has significant damage to soybeans. We've got a flyer on it this summer. There's no insecticide that they have yet. I'm sure they're working on something to kill it, but it's only predator, is a natural predator. It's another kind of, don't quote me, I can't remember it. It's some kind of beetle or ladybug or something that goes after them and kills them, eats them. But as I go through it, it's kind of neat working with this type of product, because every year you kind of learn something a little bit new. So what I kind of had an aha moment this particular summer is when they talk about it, you read through the article of all the damage it can do to your beans, and then at the bottom it's, oh yeah, by the way, we don't know how to kill it, but there's a particular bug that eats them. And for what it's worth, every time you turn around, farmers are to blame for this and that, and making this go extinct and that go extinct. And with the plus B, I'm only killing the bugs that are attacking my plants. So basically, I'm saying you can live and thrive on the whole farm, just leave my beans and my corn and my milo, my wheat alone. But then on top of it, those bugs that are eating the midges aren't dying because they're not attacking my plants. So they're still available to help me at this point with that issue because there's no other answer to it right now. So I think that
You're
as
leaving
we
the beneficials.
keep going forward, and on top of it, again, as Peyton has told me before, this isn't an end-all be-all. Like, you put the plus B and plus M out there, you have a huge infestation happen. I don't think there's going to be any product that's going to give you a 100% guarantee that we're going to kill every bug and it's going to be gone. As you know, the weather goes, you spray it today and get 6 inches of rain tomorrow. I don't think there's any fungicide or pesticide that's going to stick around for you anyway. In my opinion, if I can do it for the plus B is $3, the plus M is 3 as well, 4. Well, if I can treat a field with $7, if I lose $7 an acre for a preventative out there versus having him come out for $30 an acre to do a fungicide out there, I'd rather lose $7 an acre personally. Or if you're talking just the fungicide part of it, I'd rather lose $4 an acre than $30 an acre. Obviously, you still have his, if Mark's doing it for you, you have his application cost, but
Well, that's going to be anywhere, and that's where this is leading into. Essentially, if you're going to do it yourself or you're going to do the plus B plus M type of thing, if you had it done, that first 15 is going to the applicator.
Yeah.
So you're getting the benefit of using, the microbial product. The $3 and $4 is kind of chump change, Plus, you only have, where I was kind of heading with this next part was fungicide's only going to stick around for 2 to 3 weeks. We just watched an article outside a minute ago about that, and it's only going to work on the leaves that it contacts. So coverage is extremely important with it. But either way, there's a lot of other factors that come into how long a fungicide even lasts. I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but it all comes down to making a healthy plant is what the whole thing is. A healthy plant can fight off disease much better and easier than one that's sickly. People, livestock, all the same. So with tar spot and stuff being a bigger and bigger concern, you're starting to hear about these in this area too, everywhere. The two of us have not noticed it. Not going to say it's not there to some degree. We haven't noticed it extremely on anything that we've been a part of.
It seems like all these diseases and bugs and everything are just more and more pressure every time, and I just don't think there's going to be anything to give you 100% solid, no disease stand on it. There is a little bit out there, whether or not it pulled back from the production of the plant. I mean, you look at a couple of the leaves are got a little spot on it here and there, nothing even to raise an eyebrow about it, but then you look at it and I think one of those ears was pulled from it. I mean, they're pretty average out there. I don't think it was it wasn't super detrimental to it. But so when I look at it, I saved a couple passes on the field by sticking it in furrow and bidding it farewell. Now we did scout. I drove around, looked quite a bit, and paid attention to it because I don't know. I don't think anybody's really deep enough into it at this point, including Nature's, to know if they're going to be able to control everything or.
Well, fungicides are already being proven that some of them are not working on certain things. I mean, weeds with herbicide, same way. This is not, again, an end-all be-all to everything and not trying to shove it down your throat. It's just another tool that's available to make people aware of that you might want to try if you start running into problems. And one of the big pluses to it is it's there through the whole life of the plant, not just that 2 weeks on that leaf it hits. So
So to wrap up the plus B, like I said, he used it in furrow. We like to overall recommend it foliar over the top, like on beans, second, third trifoliate. Corn, you can do it V2 to V4 sometime in there. So you got a lot of leaf out there to capture it, to make sure that it's bringing it in. Because if you're going in furrow, you're just putting it on one side of the seed and then hitting a lot of ground and one side of the seed. It still works most cases, but we're just starting to get into, last year was our first year in Iowa, this year Wisconsin and stuff like that. So we're getting into different areas that we've been mostly Texas, Oklahoma, Southwest, obviously Missouri for a while, and then Kansas and Nebraska. So, we've been in those areas for a long time, but we're just starting to push east a little bit too. So we're running up against, we're still learning on everything as well, what other diseases are out there and everything too. But Plus M, to control mold or fungus, any type of disease like that. It's a control. Got to be out there before disease is present. Same with the Plus B. It needs to be out there before you have an infestation, because then you're just behind the 8 ball. So it's more of a preventative, and it's an enzyme. We process it through microbes to create the enzyme for the Plus M. And like Mark said, once they're out there, you foliar them, or even in furrow, they're there till harvest. They're with you the whole way through. So they're there to help control your insects, control your mold, fungus, diseases, and stuff like that.
And again, that's back to, I see same thing with fungicide being how herbicide is, eventually it's not going to work. It's going to get played out. All these good things were awesome at the beginning, and they're going to start fizzling out. So, this may be something that's going to have to be looked at, if nothing else, to a lot greater degree.
And we got guys like Central Nebraska have been using the Plus B, Plus M on corn and soybeans since it came out like 7-8 years ago. I think this is his 8th season with it. And since then, he has never once had to go spray insecticide or fungicide on any of his ground in those 8 years. And obviously every year is different, so there's different things coming in, and all of his neighbors in August, it's just planes flying back and forth.
As far as ease of use on the operator, as an applicator, insecticides are not fun to play with. They're just, I don't care what you do to keep them off of you, you're not going to. And I felt like it's an easier product to deal with.
This is all natural. You don't have to worry about it.
Very clean, I think. Cut in if I'm wrong or you don't agree with it. You did use it in your herbicide pass, did you?
Oh, that's what everything
Was in a herbicide pass, and that's a way to save on your application with it too. Combine it with, and that's where, guys that I'm spraying for here is probably where you're going to see it. It's basically just a price for price going to take the place of adjuvants that were going to have to be added anyway. You might as well have the benefit of having this in the tank.
You can use SureGrow just as a adjuvant crop oil and replace that. Because anything, like if you're using it with herbicide, it's going to take the herbicide into whatever you're spraying. So you don't need it to stick onto the plant. So if you use SureGrow just alone on that, that's going to save you money, because the SureGrow, if you're using it just as an herbicide, you use a quart per acre, so it's cheaper than most of your adjuvants.
At that point.
Another thing we can add to the SureGrow is a micronutrient pack, and how we do that is we look at your soil samples and see what micronutrients you're lacking. Copper, boron, manganese, zinc, and we can add that one of those trace minerals or all 5 that we look at for $3. It's the same price, $3 a gallon. And like Dan said, if you got soil samples, I'm more than happy to go over them with you. We don't charge anything to just look at them and go over them with you and see we'll tell you what we see. And like I said, it's ultimately your decision, what you end up doing and stuff. Our recommendation, though, is always going to be a gallon per acre on the SureGrow if you're wanting to fertilize with it and reduce input cost. That's our standard recommendation no matter where you're at. That's just the sweet spot. We've had people do, 2 up front, 2 gallons at a time. It didn't give them any more benefit. 1 gallon's, like I said, the sweet spot. You can do more applications throughout the season, but with the 1 gallon and the additives, with the additives especially, it has to be 1 gallon to ensure that enough of the additives are in there, into the plant. After that, though, you can do spoon feed it a pint at a time, a quart at a time, or whatever, because you're just spoon feeding a little bit of nutrients more to your plants. So we have seen success with that, but that's totally your call too, how much you guys want to use it. Some people use it every single time they're out there, just a little bit with the herbicide to help enhance the herbicide. And then, like I said, it's...
Well, and back to that, we've got several tests here out between him doing in furrow, some of your other guys doing, some different ways of applying it. I've done some foliar with the drone back at home on the test plots down on the highway. Those have had, later applications to see if possibly that, is a benefit to doing. Some of those, we were talking about that earlier, the corn was anywhere from V8 to close to tassels, so that's considered late, feeding, foliar feed or whatever at that time.
When it start eating on soybeans, when you're starting to set pods, or that tassel, when you're getting ready to go into, essentially your fruit stage and stuff, that's another good time to spoon feed some amount, because then it's going to kind of help that plant lock in that zone of focusing on putting on the grain and stuff. So.
And on beans as well, on that. The beans especially, I read something the other day and I'd never really thought about it. Beans use the most nutrients that they're going to use at, the R5 to R6 stage. After that, nutrients that you put down don't really mean much, but that's essentially when pod fill is, at its peak. I think I read something like it uses like 50 some odd % from the plant, and all the stuff that's stored in it, and some from the roots obviously too, but that's a very high uptake time for a soybean, is essentially at the very end of it. So we're going to see if feeding it, late like that has any benefit.
Yeah, I've had several people. We haven't ever done any university studies or anything like that. We do all real world studies. We take it to the farmer and let the farmer play with it and then give us the feedback. We tell them what we've seen here, there, or everywhere, but everyone, I think it was just last year, had a guy, north central Missouri, try just to see how many gallons he could get away with till it stopped. And he did it on soybeans. He had like 10 acres here of just 1 gallon, and then 10 acres here where he did 2 gallons throughout, all of it got 1 application, and then he did a second application on this one, but not on this first set. Then he did a 3rd application here along with the second and stuff. And then he did one little area where he got 4 applications, 1 gallon each time. And on his little test plot, it paid for itself every time up to 3 gallons. The 4th one didn't do it. So like I said, everyone plays with it different to see what is beneficial, because like I said, it's got to pay for itself. It's only $15. So I mean, a lot of years that ain't that many extra bushels you need to produce. This year it might be, but like I said, it's a very versatile product, very easy to work with.
Well, and on that front, I mean, you've been exclusively in this program. This is your 4th or 3rd?
Exclusively, yeah, 4th, 3rd, maybe.
3rd, yeah.
3rd.
The first year we did a test plot with it. I think we just bought, I don't know, 100 gallons or so,
yeah,
something like that, and tried it in a test plot. And from what I remember, we didn't see any difference from the conventional practices to the going with nature's, and that was herbicide pass with doing a quart per acre, reducing the rate. I don't remember off the top of my head what exactly rate we were putting down, and then nitrogen inputs, we cut that back in half. We had one little spot that we had is in our duck lakes down there, so to be honest with you, if we can raise 100 bushel corn out there, we're happy. I'm not trying to raise 250 bushel corn out there, because I'll end up killing myself trying to do that in the swamp down there. But we cut the herbicide in half, cut the nitrogen in half, and then had them do full rate. I think it was like 100 pounds conventional and 50 pounds with nature's, and the yields were as similar could be in that field. I'd say within 3 to 5 bushels per acre. I'm not going to preach that too much, because I think what I've noticed in our commercial fields here is for us anyway, it's about a 25-30 bushel increase is what I've seen. So if I'm putting down 200 pounds, I'm seeing 225 bushel roll out. If I put down, I think last year we did 175 pounds, I put 100 out up front ahead, and then Mark came in and put, how was that, 50 and 50? However, I think it was
The last 50 was put on side dress.
100 up front, and then he came in and top dressed with 50 pounds, and we were seeing 175 to 180 bushel yields on it. I typically, me personally, I'm trying to kind of hone in on that. Mark and I have talked about it, that it differs, even if you're standing out in the field. Us anyway down here, I'm not a huge guy on test plots because I see variations just from here to Peyton away throughout a field. So I don't hold whole lot of stock in that. And then as well as, why am I going to put 200 pounds of nitrogen on when no matter what I can only raise 175 bushel corn on that ground anyway? So I'm as well trying to hone in on that on a little side note. But from what we're seeing, we're able to hold back a little bit, and we're still getting benefits of, typically, unless we talk to an agronomist, and I'm sure they'll tell me I'm wrong, but the rule of thumb is every pound of nitrogen, it should equal a bushel of corn. And throughout, we're seeing more, whatever we put out, we're seeing
More bushels than nitrogen used.
We're kind of across the board for Nature's Farm, we're kind of seeing a half a pound of nitrogen for a bushel, kind of as the average, instead of that 1-to-1.
I think the bigger point I was trying to drive home here is a lot of the ground that we're going to look at, you've not used synthetic P and K on in several years. Now, we've talked this fall, we're going to, pretty extensively soil test.
There's one field that we're going to look at today that was just hammered by rain and flood, and the beans in the furrows and the ditches out there, they were yellow as could be. And I think that was to be honest, that was, Mark sells it, but I think that was a big aha moment for Mark this year when he said, you know what, we got a problem out here. Let's just try to top dress it with, would we do 2-to-1?
Yeah.
So 2 gallons of P and K to 1 gallon of Sugar with B&M on it. And it was a matter of
24 hours. You could
start
notice a
seeing the color
difference.
change
I mean, these were heavily water damaged beans.
and they were dropping leaves. They were hurting bad, and they got the color back. They started putting more leaves on, and now, other than the fact that it's, we're flat, so our ditches to drain are kind of deep, you can see a little bit of the roller coaster out there, but they got the rows closed up and they look healthy as can be again right now. Obviously, we lost some yield because they were hurting for a while, but I think my biggest takeaway from it was we were able to snap them out of it quicker, and they didn't have to recover. We just fed them a little bit and got them back healthy and strong again, and they were able to take back off. So that's kind of one that I'm also curious when we go out with the combine to see if I can see those yield drops out there.
Yeah, and I'm not promising there's going to be a yield increase from using it, but boy, it sure snapped everything back.
This is the first time that we've ever tried it, so I'm just interested to see what it's going to look like.
And probably the biggest reason we can tell you that that's not just the fact that it dried out. We kind of did it in reverse order, just the way things worked out. The last ground to get dried off was the first to get applied. So in theory, if it was just heat bringing those beans back and, just them coming back on their own, the first beans that got water off of them should have been the first ones to, to kind of clean up, where it was the exact opposite effect. The first ones that were applied to were the first ones to really snap back. And it was noticeable to the eye. I mean, that was, we've got some pictures that are pretty wild as far as how yellow and damaged that they were. We couldn't get water out of here. Gates were shut, river was high, it all had to be pumped out. So on the lowest end, that had water on it the longest, and we never went into anything until everything was out. So that was the first that got applied just because of the way things worked out, and worked our way backwards. And those greened up before the first ones that were dry. So yeah, it's pretty neat to see.
I just got to think that, if you look at a plant that's yellow, I mean, you can tell that doesn't look very healthy right there. And then you spray it on there, and a couple of days later, it turned back green again. It just, shows a sign of a healthier plant. So I gotta believe that it helped out some just by the looks of the plant, and they were able to put leaves back on and kind of take back off again. And It was to the point, I don't know if he's got any that are close enough, but where they weren't hit so hard by water, the rows were closed up. They're planted in 15-inch rows, that particular field. Other ones, Mr. Bush planted there in 7.5, so they were all pretty much all, rows were closed up. Plant dates were very, very similar. But then where the water damage were, you could see right down the row. And for a little while there, I was getting kind of nervous that we were gonna maybe have to make a third pass, because we were getting towards the end of our post pass, and I'm seeing dirt between the rows, and we put that on, and it wasn't 2 weeks later, they were closed back up, and you couldn't even hardly tell anymore.
Yeah. And to wrap it up though, don't not soil test. We're
Oh, yeah.
we're definitely gonna, do that and make sure that everything's in check, but this obviously can be added to it, so.
Yep.
Yeah, just they're talking about P&K. We got a product in the catalog. We just call it P&K product is what we call it. But it's the only product that we carry that is not 100% all natural, but it's a low salt, like pretty much fully available P&K fertilizer. I think the analysis on it is 3, 7, 11, and we add some microbes and enzymes to it is what helps make it readily available to the plants. So then they're doing, different ratios, because we recommend usually start at 2 or 3 gallons per acre. I think you guys did some more. We can go up to like 7 gallons an acre. It's $10 a gallon, and then you mix it with the SureGrow. And I think you've replaced your whole synthetic P&K too, haven't you?
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
So no, we've played around with this a bunch is the point of the story.
Yeah.
There's, not really just went into it blind, and left room there to make changes if something didn't work.
Yeah.
So that's where, make sure the soil tests are done. We're gonna do this fall and try to stay on some of this program.
Yeah, overall, we're after helping you guys achieve a better ROI. I mean, we obviously want to have a good yield, but when it really comes down to it, it's about penciling out that ROI, what got you the better ROI in the end. So that's what we try to focus on is, helping you put more money in your pocket. And I guess the other thing that separates us, I got into it a little earlier and then kind of forgot to go into this part. What separates us from a lot of the other microbial and biological products out there is A, we've been around a lot longer than most of them, but then B, if you look on the front, you got to see this emblem that symbolizes our technology. It's how the process of how we make the microbes, how we make the SureGrow, how everything is put together. It's a balanced product. A lot of other companies, you got to buy 1 or 2 microbes here, 1 or 2 microbes here, 1 or 2 microbes here to put it all together, and it ends up costing $30, $40, $50 an acre. Ours are already all in there. They get along. They, like I said, they're in balance together. They live in harmony. They're all in there as one product already to start with. Ease of use and very long shelf life. You don't have to refrigerate it. It don't come on a reefer truck or anything like that. As long as you keep it out of the sun so it doesn't grow in algae. The regular SureGrow by itself without the additives, we got product that's over 15 years old that's still live and viable. So it's very stable product, and I'm not aware of any other biologicals that are that stable. Usually they got a very short shelf life. And it's just because of the way we make it, the process that we make it down in Texas is what separates us from everyone else then. We do also have a degradation product called Microburst. It's just it's a special blend of fungi and bacteria. But if you're fighting any crop residue, want to break down residue and turn it into organic matter. Organic matter is obviously very important in fields. That's a great product. We went up against some other degradation products, and so far I haven't seen another one, when we're side by side, outperform us with that product. It's $7 an acre is what it costs to apply, and it's a pint per acre, so it's pretty minimal. It can be applied with, if you're doing a fall burn down or anything, it can be applied at that time. That's when we recommend is usually the fall, so that will work over the winter to break down your residue. above ground and below ground. It's going to break down your existing roots as well to turn it into organic matter. And then we also last year just came out with the seed treatment. We call it biocharge. So again, all these are in your pamphlets and stuff. But it's just a very concentrated form of the SureGrow with plus B and plus M. So it has that already in there. So like I said, especially if you're going to do foliar, you can have that seed treatment to protect the seedling and protect it, you know, until it gets up to V2, V3, V4 to go over foliar. So it'll help you protect you from rootworm and everything like that. Any pests below ground and stuff too. So if you got any other questions on anything, like I said, feel free to ask them, or I'm always a phone call away. If you want my cards, I got cards I can hand out. Or Mark's, like I said, your local guy. I met Mark last year, enjoyed getting to know him, and he told me up front he was just going to kind of ease into this. He wanted to get comfortable with the product and everything and play with it, and that's been totally fine with me. And I said I think he's obviously learned a lot and stuff and enjoyed it himself. So
It's been interesting. It's been nice to be able to do what you want with it. You know, Dan's been pretty open with trying some things, and you know, you don't want to go out there and make a complete flop out of things. It's too expensive to do. But you know, to be able to try some things here or there and see what works and what doesn't, this has been an excellent place to be able to try some of those things that most guys don't get to do on an everyday, and show whether they work or whether they don't before you present it to the table. You know, I mean, there's good, bad, and ugly down here. There's no lie there. So, you know,
it's still the real world down here. So yeah.
yeah, well, it's a good farm. I'm not going to lie. It is. It's a cherry. But as far as some of the things we've tried, you know, some work, some don't. You know, no huge flops, I don't think, but
No.
just
I mean, it's still
some stuff that works better than others.
great dirt, but you're still held down to what Mother Nature wants to hand to you throughout the growing season, and you know, from weather all the way to bugs and disease and everything else. We've been lucky. We had one field, it was bad with aphids. It was the same cornfield. It was the same one that we had a heck of a time killing the water hemp in this year, and it's pulling through it, but it's like a transitional field, I guess, if you want to call it. Half of it's a duck lake, the other half we consider commercial, but it's still part of the swamp. So we still got issues out there, and it for me personally, managing it, you know, as it goes, if I have a field that, depending on the spring, how weather's looking and everything, why do I even want to put, you know, unless I absolutely have to, I don't want to put anything more out there than I absolutely have to, because it's got so many other variables going against it. And that field with the aphids, we didn't do any, we had to make 3 passes on it to try to get the water hemp killed. And at that point, it was, you know, Mark and I were joking about it. I said, you're going to make more off of this field than I am this year. That's just the way it is in that particular area of the farm down there. So I'm not even gonna lie, it didn't have none of nature's put on it whatsoever, because, you know, tried to kill the water hemp and they had this problem and then that problem. It wasn't any fault of Mark's whatsoever. It was just, you know, the nature of the beast for that beast down there. So, you know, you get to a point where you kind of want to stop with any more inputs on it. And like I said, we'll have corn out there, but it's not going to be a bin buster, that's for sure. So we did have a problem, but it also, you know, kind of opened my eyes up, and for our commercial fields and the better, higher, less vulnerable ground, it makes me wonder if we would have had issues in that, because I heard, you know, there was big corn aphid issues over in Illinois, and I don't know about you guys, but, you know, all the I-states are kind of the benchmark for what needs to be done as far as yields and goals and stuff. They got it over there, and they were having a whole bunch of problems, and we had one 75-acre field that had a problem on top of our 175, 200 acres of corn. We had one field in a very vulnerable spot of the farm had an issue. I'll take that, honestly. You know, at this point, if we can get 100 bushel corn out of it, I got to be happy with what's left, because we threw a lot at it trying to
Straighten it
save
up.
it.
Yep. Well, you want to take a drive?
So you guys got any questions, or if we're ready to hit the field, so we can You can ask more out there and everything too, always. So.
These leaves, I don't see no bug bites on these leaves at all. My leaves, you can see all kinds of holes in them.
You'll see some, but it's not like it's completely out of.
Yeah. Well, and like Peyton said too, you're gonna,
They have to take a bite.
as they encroach.
Yeah. So usually you're going to see it more on the edges, and it'll thin out to some degree as you get into the field. These beans were just beat. Everything drains, as you can see, down through this ditch, down to the end over there at the creek. So, and Dan probably needs to be the one telling you this, but you know, it kind of, that's the higher end. Everything drains that direction. And that field over there was the very first one that we applied to, and was the first one that greened. That was the last one that the water was off of. Like
Believe
Dan,
it or not, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the bottoms down here, but we did some slough work through here to get all of our water to drain storage. These are all of our duck lakes back in here, but mainly built the slough to give water storage, basically a place for it to stage while we're waiting for it to go out, amongst other reasons. But when we did it and had our guys out with GPS checking all the elevations and everything, from that corner up there by the bridge where we just came across to this corner down here, just in this field, there's 6 inches of fall. is all we got. So it stands a lot out here, and it just has to sit and wait for the pumps to suck it out of here or the pipes to take it out. But as you know, the river was up around 30 when we got a 3-inch rain on top of it, and it just kind of had to all hang out here waiting to get out. But this is the one that we were talking about where Mark put it on, and in 24, 36 hours you could see it snapping out of it. And again, like we were talking in ours, that you can still see, little or areas where they didn't get as tall, they don't look as healthy, but their colors are matching now, and they filled back in, and maybe not, but to me a green plant is a healthy plant, as opposed to all these weeds. You sprinkle some nitrogen on it, they're going to snap out of it and turn darker green. And so this is the first time we've ever tried anything like this. This was Mark and I at basically what it turned into was we had some fields that we wanted to top dress foliar. This one was not on the radar. This one was put in furrow. I did this one. And so it wasn't on the radar to be done at all. And then it turned out that a couple of our fields up closer to the highway looked like they were healthy, they were doing good, and we wanted to kind of give this a little kick in the butt to try to help it out. So we ended up changing what our original thought process program was this spring to, hey, let's skip those fields and let's just try this, and what the heck, let's see how it works. And that was, again, a big moment where I didn't even know it. I was out doing other things or whatever, and talked to Mark and said, hey, why don't we give this a try and do this field and that field up there and see what happens. And I think it was a day or so later, Mark called and said, you're not going to believe, you need to come down and look at this, how much it's changed.
well, I was out here spraying, so I was down here for a period of, a couple consecutive days between herbicide and putting, nature's run on some of this stuff. And like I said, 24 hours, there was a definite visual difference to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was amazing how fast they snapped back.
Yeah.
They were pretty crushed. I mean, they weren't looking too peaked at all.
So Nature's is a distributor of Elamite. So anybody can go on your phone, whatever, and you can order it and have it. You can skip right by Nature's for that.
It's a mineral mined out in Utah. It's a lime replacement. It's called Elamite, but it has a lot of trace minerals with it as well, like over 60 different trace minerals.
Screening, if you need 1 ton of lime, you put 3 tons of screening, but you get 5 years of work out of it because it slowly breaks down. So it actually equals out in cost.
And that's how the Elamite, it's usually 3 to 5 years before you would have to reapply too. So even at that low 250 pound an acre rate.
Just less of a use rate, easier, was supposed to be, a little easier handling, and the trucking is what kills,
Oh, yeah.
getting it down here. Spreading it was not a big deal. It was more the trucking and what it was going to take to get 3 tons of lime down here per acre. it doubles the cost. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if anybody's wanting to see anything, you know, in the field or not, but I mean, there it stands.
If they're
We poked around a little bit yesterday just to try to show a few places where we wanted to take everybody, and I didn't really notice I mean, there was a stink bug or two, there was a beetle or two. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea here is to try to keep it in threshold.
This stuff here is that's what I was reading about.
Mm-hmm.
That brown thing on the leaves. I was reading stuff on it. So it's like a rust or something like that. It was something coming out.
But to see where they were and to see them now, I wouldn't have told you they were going to make much of nothing.
And you know, the P&K helped quite a bit. I don't want to crawfish on you guys at all, but again, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of water pressure on this out in this particular area of the farm. There's a lot
This
of
is what I deal with.
yeah.
There's water over everything,
Yeah.
and no water, and now it's
Yeah.
dry.
It's a little more black sticky than it gets a little more made as you go towards the highway. So this field was pretty heavily yellow too, especially the further into that corner you get.
It all goes back to balance though, because like, yeah, if there's any one thing lacking, like your calcium, your pH is low, then yeah, just everything else that's not in balance, so it's going to struggle for the crop, you know, because it's going to be searching for that specific thing that it's lacking, and if it can't find it, it's there. It just ain't available for the plant to be able to uptake it. Only way you're going to make it available is, you know, the soil life. And a lot of soils don't have a lot of life left in them just through farming practices and everything. And that's why they're figuring that out. That's why biologicals is the next forefront of ag, is because they're figuring that out.
Well, you and I had talked about that too. Where did a lot of this microbial life come from? Used to be livestock farms everywhere.
Yes. Well, and
Manure was a big issue.
Yes,
You know,
manure
I mean,
helps feed.
yeah, it
There's
breaks
microbes.
down. You know, all that microbial life is
weed seed out there.
yeah, that Johnson grass and shattercane that we were talking about. But no, the point is though, that's where, I mean, you see it in our area, some of them common hill farms, the ones that were bigger livestock farms, some of that dirt ain't too bad.
That's all I did with that farm up there by the house. I was hay fields and pasture for 40 years.
But you lose that when you go to a complete synthetic.
And you remove the livestock from the land, and that's part of
Moving all the microbial life from it too, and the salt, the things we were talking about, that is all detrimental to microbial life. So you're essentially trying to replace some of that, you know, the nature's product.
This has a gallon of Sure Grow.
This has 3 to 1 on it.
Okay.
With being everything I did this year, I talked to Mark and talked to Peyton about it. I'm trying to simplify my life a little bit. There's a lot of moving parts as with everybody during planting season, and I tried it last year with doing some just Sure Grow, some B&M, and I think I called Mark, and I think we ordered 2,000 gallons of Plus B and Plus M, and we ordered 2,000 gallons, 1,000, whatever it was for Mark, to mix with herbicide. And so basically, when Mark comes down here, we both have a filling station for the planter and the spray rig. We both kind of work and play in the same playground over here, and basically, there's your toys, here's my toys, and I'd fill up out of totes with the B&M, and Mark would fill up without.
Essentially everything was pre-mixed, just ready to throw in whatever implement it was going to go out with and be ran.
I would go to Mark's. We have a bunch of totes here. I'd go up there and fill up totes and pre-mix them and have it all ready to go and fill the planter and go. And then, like I said, Mark had his own little corner of the area where he would mix for herbicide. It worked pretty well for us this year.
When I was in there looking, I was looking for like any insect damage and stuff. I didn't find very much, maybe 5% of the ears at most. But I wanted to pull an ear and kind of show you guys what, like an earworm, the Plus B, that's typically then what it'll look like. It'll just be a couple kernels that they attack, and then it's usually a green or blue or whatever. I don't know if that's their dead body, decayed completely like that, or exactly what the blue becomes, but that's about what you typically see. The control, the plus B control on the earworms, so, something like that. Now it was pretty standard. Any ears I found, it was about like that. There was one that had a little bit more, but most of it was just a handful of kernels at the most. So.
100%.
But either way, those don't do anything for you.
Yeah.
Anyways, those, I mean, that's still a good ear of corn.